This hidden foe lodged in the human breast, man must overcome or miss his higher fate. This is the inner war without escape. Hard is the world redeemer's heavy task. The world itself becomes his adversary. Those he would save are his antagonists. This
Antagonists.
antagonist. Those he would save are his antagonists. This world is in love with its own ignorance. Its darkness turns away from the Savior light. It gives the cross. It gives the cross in payment for the crown. His work is a trickle of splendor in a long night. He sees the long march of time, the little one. A few are saved, the rest strive on and fail. A sun has passed on earth, a sun has passed on earth, night's shadow falls.
So we can stop there for the moment
Yeah.
and discuss what is actually happening here, because when we look at the world as it is today,
Yeah.
we see that there has to be some, I hesitate to use the word, but malignancy
Mm.
in in many humans.
What does malignancy mean?
Um, like a cancerous growth.
Oh, it's. I thought it was M. It was N.
Ma-
Malignant. Okay.
malignancy.
But it is na. Okay. Malignancy.
Oh,
Yeah.
malignancy, yes.
Yeah.
And so, in order for the world to change, there's no hope unless an avatar comes down.
Hmm.
And this is what we have seen through the ages. We
Hmm.
have seen we have seen Christ in the West,
Hmm.
Krishna in the East, Rama.
Yeah.
We have seen all the avatars and vibhutis.
Yeah.
Vivekananda was certainly a vibhuti. Abraham Lincoln was certainly a vibhuti.
Hmm.
George Washington was a vibhuti.
Hmm.
And he had five visions that are so relevant today. You
Okay.
want to look up one day George Washington's five visions.
Okay.
So we see that these negative forces, they whisper evil to the human heart.
Hmm.
And that seals up the eyes of wisdom and the soul's look.
Hmm.
And he says it is the origin of our suffering here,
Hmm.
because it binds earth to calamity and pain.
Okay.
He then says, this is very strong,
Hmm.
this all must conquer, who would bring
Hmm.
down God's peace. Well,
Hmm.
he doesn't mean all men have to conquer to bring down God's peace, but in general, I would say the all here refers to higher beings who have this capacity to bring down God's peace, but they have to conquer this evil
Yeah.
that whispers to the human heart
Yeah.
and lures us to evil.
Hmm.
Then he continues on with the thought that this hidden foe, this
Hmm.
enemy,
Yeah.
is lodged in the human breast. Man must overcome or miss his higher fate. Well, I see this in myself. I see that there are moments when I turn away from the light. I
Mm.
don't want to do that, but there's something in me that does that.
Mm.
Sri Aurobindo, in another passage in the Life Divine, he says that we don't think, we don't act, we don't do anything. It's all forces working through us.
Wow.
That's a very strong statement, but it's
Yeah.
all very correct.
Mm-hmm.
So all we have within us is this little being no bigger than the thumb of man,
Yeah.
which Mother names the psychic.
Yeah.
But now he goes on after saying that man has to overcome this and that this is the inner war without
Mm.
escape. We all have to fight this war.
Yeah.
Sri Aurobindo says that it is a battle, it's a constant battle. But
Mm.
he says that there is the the golden path, and we'll
Mm.
see that in a little bit. So now he goes on to talk about the avatar.
Yeah.
Hard, and you see that there's a double quotes there.
Yeah.
So Narad is speaking now about the avatar. And hard is the avatar's heavy task.
Yeah.
World itself becomes his adversary. Those he would save are his antagonists. So why is the world his adversary, and why are those that he would save are his antagonists? Well, we know that Christ was not accepted by the Romans or by
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
Jews, and he had to give he had to give his life for that.
Yeah.
Krishna had to give his life.
Yeah.
Um, Sri Aurobindo had to give his life. He had to put his body into the earth, and Mother said it's too great a sacrifice for any human being to understand what Sri Aurobindo had done.
Mm.
So all the help he gave to all those, well, not to those disciples in the ashram,
Mm.
none has yet become supermentalized.
Mm.
So he says that the world becomes his adversary,
Mm.
those who oppose him.
Yeah.
And an antagonist is
Opponent.
so an opponent also, yes. So because the world is in love with its own ignorance. Wow.
Mm. Yeah.
And why is it in love with its own ignorance? Well, that's because of the mind.
Mm.
Mind thinks it's on top of everything. The mind feels, so I am so and so, I can do this. And so there's no harmony in
Mm.
the world today, no harmony at all.
Mm.
Because the world is in love with its own ignorance, and the darkness of the world turns away from the Savior light. And that's
Mm.
what he says. Good.
Hard is the world redeemer's heavy task. The world itself becomes his adversary. Those he would save are his antagonists. This world is in love with its own ignorance. Its darkness turns away from the Savior light. It gives the cross in payment for the crown. His work is a trickle of his work is a trickle of splendor in a long night. He sees the long march of time, the little one. A few are saved, the rest strive on and fail. A son has passed on earth, a son has passed on earth, night's shadow falls.
Yeah, I would just change the accent on that a little bit. A sun has passed. On earth, night's shadow falls.
Okay.
So night's shadow is falling on the earth
Yeah.
because the sun has passed.
Hmm.
So, lot to talk about here.
Yeah. So here we actually talked about the other day. We talked about how his work is like a in the long night of like a trickling water tap. Like that's how um, his work comes, and he also uh, sees the long march of the time. The
Because the you see the avatar has this vision, this understanding, this realization of time,
yeah,
which is infinite.
yeah,
And he sees that long march of time. He even sees that there is very little one.
okay,
But when he descends, there is always something gained.
mm,
You can't say that all of Krishna's work is gone now. It's not.
mm,
And even Vivekananda, who was a vibhuti, no doubt, a very high vibhuti, he came to the prison and told Sri Aurobindo about the supermind.
mm,
No one ever knew about that before,
yeah,
except that Sri Aurobindo says the Vedic rishis had some feeling of it that it could descend into one person, but they never saw that it could begin to open up the whole earth and
mm,
all of humanity.
yeah,
Yeah, very powerful.
yeah,
So he sees the long march of time. He
yeah,
even sees that there's very little one,
mm,
and he sees that a few are saved. I think few are saved means that a few um, realize the soul.
yeah. I was also feeling the few actually win the war, win the inner war he talks about in the previous passage, because he says that man must overcome. So a few are saved also maybe possibly means that the few can actually walk the path of light and escape the inner war.
That is correct. And by the way, your reading is very good now.
Thank you.
Big improvement, Prema. Gosh. Okay, so now we continue on. And he says that a sun has passed. Well,
Yeah,
the sun is the avatar.
yeah.
And he has brought that light to earth.
Mm,
But when he leaves, a shadow falls on earth,
yeah,
the shadow of night.
yeah.
But then he tells us, because there's a full stop there, and then he tells us, but there are happy ways to God's Son, but
Mm,
few tread the sunlit path.
mm.
And, and he speaks of the sunlit path. Did we read the sunlit path
Yes,
last
we did.
time? Good, I
Yes, we
think we did, yes. So he tells us, though, that only the pure in soul can walk in light.
yeah.
And exit, you can begin reading.
Yes, there are happy ways near to God's Son, but few are they who tread the sunlit path. Only the pure in soul can walk in light. An exit is shown, a road of hard escape from the sorrow and the darkness and the chain. But how shall a few escaped release the world?
Big question, big question. So it's going to take more than a few
Yeah,
who have escaped this darkness and the chain. And the chain, I think we talked about the
yes,
chain.
yeah, we
Yeah,
talked. Yeah.
yeah. But how shall these few escaped release the world?
Yeah.
Because the human mass still lingers beneath the yoke.
Yeah.
The yoke is the burden, of course.
Mm.
Well, you put a yoke on two bullocks,
Yeah.
then they have to pull everything in.
Everything. Yeah.
That's the burden. The yoke is what holds them down, holds
Mm.
them together.
Mm.
Now, then he goes into something very interesting because you have to read that and we'll talk about it.
An exit is shown, a road of hard escape from the sorrow and the darkness and the chain. But how shall a few escaped release the world? The
Yeah,
human.
you want that more of a question mark.
Okay.
Really put that into a question.
Yes.
But
But
how shall a few escape?
how shall a few escaped release the world?
Very good.
The human mass lingers beneath the yoke. Escape, however high, redeems not life. Life that is left behind on a fallen earth. A greater power must come, a larger
Oh,
life.
no. Escape cannot uplift.
Ah, life that is left behind on a fallen earth. Escape cannot uplift the abandoned race or bring to it victory and the reign of God. A greater power must come, a larger light.
So let's
All.
stop there for a moment because
Oh,
that's extremely important.
yeah. So
Well,
we discussed how this burden is bringing down the human mass, and also like how, like he says, the inner war cannot escape, like man cannot escape this, and to bring victory to that and to bring heaven on earth, a greater power must come, and also man has to also win that internal war.
okay, but what he's telling us here is very subtle.
Mm.
Escape in the sense of samadhi or nirvana.
Yeah, I think we talked about it. We talked about how Buddhists, even in
Yes.
release the world, how,
And that's the key. When you leave the world, what happens to the earth? It's
yeah,
left behind.
yeah,
Even escape cannot uplift the abandoned race or
yeah.
bring to it victory and the reign of God. Now, this line, next line, is so important. A greater power must come, a
Mm,
larger light. Well, we know now that that is the supermental.
mm.
That is the light that Sri Aurobindo and Mother have brought down.
Although light grows on earth and night recedes, yet till the evil is slain in its own home, and light invades the world's inconscient base, and perished has the adversary force, he still must labor on, his work half done.
So it seems that light does grow on earth
Yeah,
and has been growing on earth
yeah,
through all the ages of man.
yeah,
We've had the animal man, we've had the mental man,
yeah.
Rama, we've had the bowed ape like man before that.
Mm,
Now we have the higher mental man,
mm,
but but even though that power, that larger light has to come and light grows on earth until that evil is slain,
mm.
and light invades the world's inconscient base.
Mm.
Well, in Savitri, book 2 is all about Sri Aurobindo's bringing the light down into the lowest realms.
Hey.
We will get to that one day
Yeah.
in book 2. It's a difficult book in many ways because he has to face so much
Mm.
horror and pain and evil.
Okay.
So he has brought that light into the world's inconscient base, but he's not speaking about that here because here we're talking the story of Savitri, and
Mm.
Narad is speaking of what the avatar must do, and he
Yeah.
says, and perished as the adversary force,
Mm.
capitalizes force.
Yeah.
So the avatar has to, well, the world has to see that perished
Mm.
and is not there yet.
Mm.
What we see right now, Mother explains, is this great darkness trying to survive,
Mm.
cannot win. And it knows it cannot win,
Yeah.
so it's throwing up all the opposition it can.
Yeah.
And we see it. Somebody's a little tired.
Mm. Yeah, I've had a long day,
Good. So
but I wanted to read that.
we'll stop soon.
Yeah.
You what?
So that's
I
also, that's also why I said let's not read a new one because I felt I cannot process.
good. Okay.
Yeah.
So
We
the
can
first
stop here because this is where we had stopped the last time. So we can just renew or restart the next time.
good. He still must labor on. His work is half
Ah.
done. This is the avatar's work.
Yeah.
And Mother says, with or without a body, they will win.
Okay. Yeah. And also I when you said like how mother said that darkness is actually like trying to survive, um, one of the things that came up for me was how sometimes there are these inner tantrums which I know is not of light, and how it's like just wanting to throw tantrums, and then yes, as and sometimes I'm aware of it and I can grow out of it and not play to that, but sometimes I play to that also. um, but it's the same thing. It's just trying for survival because I can see that I do not want that aspect in me anymore. So it's just now trying to like throw tantrums and maybe like trying to just survive. That makes a lot of sense, Narad. Thank you for
And
that.
and it is true of all of us.
Okay.
Nobody is exempt.
Okay.
Okay.
That's also
Namaste.
good to know. Namaste, Narad. Thank you so much. I speak to you on Monday.
Very good. Okay. Bye.